Welcome in, students, to our next conversation in our Aspire career series. We are learning about the world of hospitality, and we have a great guest today, Miss Danielle Castillo from Miami, who has a very busy job, just from what I've observed in the last few days, of keeping track of all kinds of employees and tasks and responsibilities inside of a large hotel in a resort city. And so we will have her join us to tell us all about her job in human resources. So Danielle, welcome. Tell us the hotel where you work and your general job title and job duties.
Sure. So my name is Danielle Castillo. I am the Human Resources Manager here at the Miami Marriott Biscayne Bay. I've been within the HR department for a year and a half now. My first 6 months were as a generalist, human resources generalist, and then 6 months after that, I became an HR manager. So I've been a manager for about 1 year now. Human resources within hospitality, at least, is a very busy world. Not only do we focus on recruiting, hiring, onboarding, orientation, your basic human resources tasks, but we also focus a lot on taking care of our associates, focusing on associate relations, kind of taking care of our associates, because ultimately without them, we don't have people to serve to our guests, right? So we focus on taking care of our guests, which our guests in human resources are our associates. We don't use the term employees, we use the term associates, just more like homey, natural. We don't want them to think that they're just here to perform a job, because it's so much more than that. We're here, we're a family, because if you're not at home, you're pretty much here. So we like to make it as welcoming as possible.
Okay, so how many associates are you kind of helping to manage or have paperwork on, or like how many people are you dealing with? Give us a sense. It's a big hotel, right? 600 room hotel. Yeah. It's a big hotel. So how many associates are you interacting with?
So directly reporting to me, I have 2 people that report to me. I have 2 HR generalists, but our hotel comprises of 220 associates.
Wow.
Yes.
And give us a sense of the different types of roles that people are playing in those across those 220.
Yeah, sure. So we have 10 departments. Aside from human resources, you have 9 others. Of course, your basics: front office, housekeeping, food and beverage. We have banquets, we have events, we have loss prevention, which is like our security team. We have engineering, accounting. We have so many different roles. Within each of those, you have your senior leaders working down to your, operational leaders, assistant leaders, and then your associates that work within the operation on the floors, your housekeepers, your front desk agents, things like that.
Wow. So let's help the students understand the job. So let's say, let's pick, you don't have to give us a name, but just pick an employee from like food and beverage. Okay. And they're coming on as an associate. There'd be a new hire. So what are you doing with that person?
So initially, before they even join our team, what we do with an open position, we go ahead and we screen. We kind of do like a phone screening. We give you a call. We let you know the rate of pay, the flexibility that is kind of needed within working in the hospitality industry. It's not just your typical 9 to 5. It's starting as early as 6:30 a.m. or running as late until 1 a.m., depending on which shift you are working. So we phone screen you, then we invite you on property for interviews. You meet the department leaders. From there, you'll meet our executive committee members and then the general manager. Once you start working with us, kind of officially hired, we give you a phone call. We let you know, hey, orientation are on these days. These are some things to bring, some things to wear, just kind of tips and tricks before you start here with us. Once you start, every person must attend orientation before they are able to start in their actual department. Orientation for us is 2 days because we teach you a lot. All of our rules, all of our regulations. We go through required trainings by the company, typical, like signs of harassment, if ever needed. What do you do? What do you say? Who do you bring these things up to, as well as human trafficking, what you can and cannot post on social media, things that you can and cannot say, confidentiality. It's a lot, right? We have so many people that come to our hotel, so much information that we have access to, and it's very, very important that upon your first day, what you can and cannot do, right? So policies, implementation, from our handbook to our attendance policy, everything like that is so, so important. So we make sure we emphasize that right when you start. From there, at the end of day 2, you meet with your manager. They go over your schedule with you. They get uniform sizes, and we start you right on training on basically day 3. Day 3, you
Wow.
go straight into your department to train.
Wow. Pretty
Yeah.
quick. You kind of
Yeah.
moving people in
Yeah.
fairly quickly. And so what do you find to be the most challenging about onboarding people?
For us, I would say sometimes it could be a little bit of the language barrier, believe it or not. We primarily in our office speak English and Spanish. So when we have some people that we meet that primarily speak Creole, that's where we kind of bump into our biggest challenge. But we're very accommodating. We figure things out. We'll bring someone from another department to assist us in translating, or we'll Google Translate. We make things happen for them. But I find that that would be the biggest challenge, because once we present all the information to everyone, we give them the opportunity to ask those questions. We tell them, this is what orientation is all about. Ask your questions now. We're here to help you. HR is a resource for you. It's not something to be scared of or intimidated by. Ultimately, we're here to help you and answer the questions that you have, or maybe you don't feel comfortable asking your leader. And we're like the moms, right? Or moms and dads, or like your parents, kind of, because you know us from the moment that you start with the company and in our hotel, and we're kind of like the person that you have the confidence to go and ask the questions to.
I like that.
I don't really find many challenges with onboarding. I'll be very honest. Look, we're very lucky that really just the language is a hard.
That's interesting. I mean, that's based on, where you are in the country. You have people speaking
Right.
Creole.
Mhm.
Another HR manager in another part of the country could have a different
Right.
language
Yeah.
that is a challenge. But I think you've found really creative ways to
Yeah.
work through it. When you thought, did you always want to work in hotels? And did you always want to do HR? Did you how did you find your way into this job?
So I actually, in high school, I was part of the Academy of Hospitality and Tourism, and the NAF program
Yes.
and stuff like that.
In Miami-Dade
Um,
schools.
Correct.
Yes.
So that's where I started being exposed to it. And then college applications time, like, were coming around, and I was like, well, I don't really know anything else. I mean, hospitality is huge, right? It's cruises, it's restaurants, it's amusement parks, hotels, it's everything. So I figured, let me just try to go down this path and see where it'll take me. And I had applied for a Marriott scholarship. Lucky enough, I was the winner. So my general manager currently was the one who presented me with my scholarship, and told me if I ever needed a job or thought about going into the actual industry, to just give her a call. So sure enough, I did. And I actually started out as a front office agent. At that time, it was front office agent. Now it's called guest experience experts. Still at the same property. I did that for maybe about a year. And then I was looking for something else part-time, because I was still going to school. I was going to FIU.
And FIU is Florida International.
Correct. Florida
Okay.
International University. They have the Chaplin School of Hospitality and Tourism. So that's the route I took. So I was looking for something else part-time, still within the same industry. And there was a part-time human resources journalist open. And I was like, well, this is interesting. I like to help people. That was something that I always knew that would help me in the hospitality industry, helping others. But I always found myself at the front office helping my associates, like my coworkers, and, hey, can you help me figure this out online in our system? I don't know how to navigate through this, or how do you set up your email, kind of thing. So I was like, well, I'm already doing this now as a front office agent, so might as well do it on the flip side as an HR professional. So that's how I kind of found myself into HR. And I love it, honestly, because it's really so different than what people think it is. People think HR is just hiring and firing, and it's really not that. It's so much more than that. So I love human resources. I just always have loved helping people. And I feel like on this side, I feel like I can make much more of an impact and more of a difference in helping the people that do work here feel good about coming here, and like taking from liking coming to work to loving to come to work, making it homey and just a fun place to be.
Wow. So you kind of feel like you're like at the center of the hotel, like
Yeah.
you're helping everybody go to work, stay at work, feel good about being at work. Like it all kind of runs through your office. Does it feel that way some days?
Yes, indeed it does, because not only from an employment standpoint, not only like if they have questions about work, but we have people that join us from other countries as well. So we kind of are their point of contact for, where's the closest bank? How do I set up my direct deposit? Do you have any realtors that maybe you know of? Now, maybe that's not stuff that we can fully help with, but hey, here are some recommendations, some access points and transportation methods. If you want to live maybe 30 minutes from here, you still have other ways to get to work than Uber or your car, kind of thing.
Yeah, I like that a lot. And in our company, we talk a lot about the importance of being a good communicator
Mhm.
and being very clear with your direction. How does communication factor in with your day? Like if you weren't careful, could you make a mistake on somebody's paperwork or
Yeah.
screw up the rhythm and the flow? Like how does communication play a role in your job?
Communication is fundamental. It is super, super important for us to communicate. My team, like I was mentioning, I have two people that report to me, but mostly like they're like the first point of contact, right? People only want to see the HR manager if something's a little bit more serious or no one else is available. So it's very, very important that they're sharing with me, anything that associates might bring up to them as far as pay, if they're having a change in address, that way we can make sure that we change it for, W-2s that just passed, right? Things like that. But yes, if they don't share a critical piece of information or an associate doesn't speak out on something, or even department leaders, if they know someone is having a baby or they need to go on paternity, maternity leave, like things like that. So we make sure that we adjust things in our system. It could affect their pay. So it's not just, I just need to be in the loop of everything, right? Because it'll affect their pay, and pay is a very big thing here for us. We process payroll and stuff like that too. So communication is absolutely everything, from the new hire start date. When can they start to work? Do they have another job? Can they only start in 1 month from now? Are they moving from a different state? So communication is absolutely everything, even within departments, right? If we are rolling out something new in our restaurant, like we're having a breakfast buffet starting tomorrow through Saturday, but it's not open on Sunday because of something else that's going on. That needs to be communicated to our front office team so our front office team can let the guests know that are checking in, right? Our housekeepers also need to be aware if someone's walking out of their room, oh, where's breakfast? They can share that information as well. So communication is huge overall hotel. Everyone has to kind of be on the same page.
And that's great. And you're pretty young in your career. You're pretty new.
Yes.
How important is writing skills, email writing or writing up formal documents? How important is actually writing in
It
your
is.
day to day?
It is super, super important. Majority of my work is done via email. I have leaders, asking me for assistance if they, need to hold someone accountable or they need to write an email to a guest. If we're going to be following up with a guest who had an issue, right? You need to make sure that that's well put together. You know exactly what you're going to say, how you can assist the guest in compensating if there's any compensation required, or they just are looking for additional assistance. That's huge. Um, Also, the way we view things from human resources standpoint, we always try to view things as if they were going to go to court, right? Everything has to be very well put together. If someone from higher up is going to come and say, hey, I need to see someone's employment records, right? Employment records are like legal documents, right? So we have to make sure that we hold everything, crisp, clean, to the point. We implement all the rules. If the rules aren't spelled correctly or there's a hiccup and they just don't make sense, and how can we make sure that we're giving that information out to our associates, right? So writing skills, and it's also a humongous piece of what it is that we do here.
Wow, that's great. Great to hear because these are skills that we want students to learn while they're in school,
Yeah.
so they don't come out, because if you come out and you don't know the difference between an email and a text message, you're
Mm-hmm.
going to struggle in a administrative job. And so it's important to hear you say that. I also, you said that you were a generalist, a part-time generalist, and now you have two people working underneath you. That seems very exciting because you're still new in your career and you're already in a
Yeah.
management position. So was that a surprise to you that you could manage people after only being in the business a short time?
Absolutely. I have only been within the hospitality industry. This year will be now 4 years because within the pandemic, I lost a whole year of time. So to me, it's like I've only really been in the industry for 3 years. I honestly I could have never imagined having gotten here so quickly. Um, but I'm always the type of person who's very eager to learn. I ask a lot of questions because I always knew I wanted to develop within my role. I just didn't think it was going to be so quick. But it also came with someone who was willing to assist me and mentor me. I did have a mentor, so that definitely helped me put a lot of things into perspective. And I feel like having someone that believes in you and is willing to assist you, as long as you're willing to put in the work as well, it's like a mutual relationship. And I feel like that really helped me a lot in growing. But honestly, the overall biggest thing that I felt like is what got me here was just being eager to learn, putting
Mm.
myself out there, making myself available and receptive to feedback. That was something that I had to learn a lot of, asking for feedback, not being afraid of what someone is going to say or how they're going to respond, because ultimately that's what helps you. If you don't ask for feedback and you don't know where you're maybe going wrong with some things, how can you correct them?
I love that. I love that. That's great for students to hear.
Yeah.
For you to be in the role you're in now, do you need a college degree?
So I actually became the human resources manager before I graduated from a,
Wow.
yeah. So I,
But the
it,
fact is you were on the path to graduate. Do they
yeah,
require, like, who needs a college degree? Some roles in the hotel don't need it.
right.
Some do. Like in your office, is it pretty much just required or encouraged?
It is not required. Obviously, we encourage it because, like you were mentioning, those writing skills, right? So sometimes that can be an extra help. For me personally, the only reason why I even considered human resources was because of a class that I took at FIU. It was one of my electives. I had chosen it. I was like, let's see what human resources is all about. And that was like the one class that always really stuck with me personally. And I feel like if I didn't take that class, I don't think I would have been open to trying human resources. So
Wow.
I definitely think that helped a lot. Like I mentioned, I like to help people, but that really gave me the perspective of what human resources is
Sure.
and how they help.
Sure.
So I think that was huge for me. But yes, only from my understanding, there's only really one department here on property that kind of requires a degree, and that would be for finance, accounting.
Mm, mm.
If you want to continue to grow within that department, it would be required. You have your standard positions that don't require, a general accountant and things like that. But if you're looking to become like an assistant director of finance, a director of finance, you definitely need to have those degrees.
Okay. That's important for students to hear too. So let's
Yeah.
say that there's a student watching this. They don't have a hospitality pathway in their school necessarily.
Mhm.
They're interested. Is it okay to walk up to a hotel, dress nicely with a resume and just ask for an HR manager and just say, I'd love to work here? Like, what would you suggest a student do?
For sure. I mean, every property is different, right? Every hotel operates and functions differently, but we have what we call walk-in Fridays. So every Friday we are open to people, coming in, bringing a resume, having already applied, hopefully, so that maybe we can get them an interview on the spot, just to, give more opportunity. But if it's just like a random Tuesday, and someone's interested in a position, they walk in, they're having their resume, we'll help you, we'll sit with you, we'll look through all of our current open jobs, we'll see which one is more of interest, which one's a great way to get your foot in the door. If you have experience, we'll look at those positions as well. And then we'll see if a manager is available to already assist you. Because if you're already here, let's see if we can knock everything out in one day. If
Right.
not, if not, we'll invite you back. We'll set up a time with the appropriate person, and we'll just take it from there. Yeah, we don't like to lose anyone. We always try to help everyone and see what we could do for others.
Well, and it's like the idea that if you show up, right, if you just put yourself in the situation, then good things can happen because you're
For
there.
sure.
Right.
Absolutely.
And they're like,
Yeah.
oh, we just lost a food and beverage person. I'm glad you walked in. It's one
Yeah.
of those things where it's like you're there. And if somebody emailed the resume, the fact
Yeah.
is you're the one sitting right in front of you.
Right.
So you might get the opportunity before somebody else. So
Right.
I definitely want to encourage students to just have the courage to dress nicely, bring a resume, and just walk in and
Yeah.
just kind of see what can happen. So let me let you make kind of a closing thought on why students should consider not just hospitality, but to really take a look at human resources like you did, taking that class just to explore
Yeah.
why should students give HR, a hard look.
HR, honestly, like I kind of mentioned before, it's all about having the passion of taking care of others, serving others. That's what hospitality overall is all about. Human resources kind of just does it on a different side of it, right? Many of the hospitality professionals that come in are here to serve our guests, but as human resources professionals, we're here to serve our internal guests, taking care of our associates. But ultimately, it's just building the personal connections with people. helping them professionally, but you can help them personally as well. Sometimes they just need someone to listen and help them, give them some advice, like, I need to start looking at a house, right? Things like that. Things that people don't even think that human resources is
Sure,
a part of,
sure,
I
sure.
help associates bring in, they've rolled something new out, that they just need like employment verification letters, some pay slips, and they can potentially bring some family members to the US for a little bit, right? So we help in that aspect too, giving you your documents, your paperwork that you need,
Wow.
as long as it's approved, but it's just helping people, that's what it's all about. And I love human resources. I love helping the people that work here and making it a place that they look forward to coming to, not that they're like, oh, just another day at work.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you're off to a great start. We wish
Thank
you the
you.
best of success in your career trajectory at Marriott or wherever your career might take you. Thank you for talking to us and sharing your knowledge with us. I know students will really appreciate seeing a side of hotels that they probably wouldn't hear about
Absolutely.
otherwise. So thank you and best of luck.
Thank you so much. It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.